Welcome to Step Away from the Table, Beyond the Table. The podcast for pet groomers ready to start their next chapter. Let's explore what's possible when you trade in the grooming table for the freedom of virtual work. Whether you're done with the physical toll or just craving more flexibility, you're in the right place. We're staying in the pet industry, just shifting how we show up. So take a breath, step away from the table, and let's see what's waiting for you on the other side.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Step Away from the Table, Beyond the Table podcast. And I am here with my lovely co-host, Jess, the systems queen, whoop whoop. And she's the owner of Grooming Support Services. Now remember, this is where groomers are going to grow beyond the table. And today's topic is easy breezy, lemon squeezy. It is River and Jess are going to give examples of traveling and working, and we're going to talk about traveling and working virtually in Greece. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Living our best
hmm
life over here.
Yes.
So, one of the things I want to talk about today is going to be our daily routine. I'd love to talk about things like client communication and also maybe some of the challenges that we both experience working and spending time in Greece. So, Jess, I want to start with you. What was kind of your daily routine? Now I know that you have a partner with you, so I think that adds to some of the chaos and some of the things that you had to do. So tell me about working and spending time in Greece.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think we have different experiences for a lot of different factors. Now, I'll just preface, my husband is Greek heritage, and so we went together and we spent most of our time in Athens, which is kind of like the main city, the capital, as well as Mykonos, which is a resort town, island town. So these are different, but to me, my schedule kind of work the same. So I'll kind of give you a little overview. In previous episodes, we had talked about like what we bring and expectations upon, the grooming business owners that I worked with. And so for one, I intentionally set my calendar prior to the trip. Like when I'm making trip plans, I'm looking at where I'm going to be, what day to a general extent, like, ooh, I want to eat here this day, or this activity I'm going to do this day. And knowing that I'm also going to be working was somewhat factored into that. I think I put about 60% of the total, like what I could normally plan in a day, just to lessen, the add more flexibility to my schedule, right? I wanted a day where if I needed to just like lounge at the pool in Mykonos and do nothing, that was fine. And I ended up doing that for reasons, I'll tell you. So also in anticipation of going abroad to Greece for a while, I did not take on any major projects. So I work in time blocks. Part of my role is client communication, part of my role is project based. And so any project that had a big workload associated or a timeline that I needed to be met by a certain time. If it was anything higher effort, I wasn't going to do it. So I'd either get those projects done ahead of time or I just would say we need to wait until I'm back. So setting those boundaries to my clients, supervisors, for sanity's sake, there are groomer business owners. Those are the people that I work with. Um, and I always was really clear communication with them. I'm going to tell them, hey, I'm going to be gone for a while. I'm still going to get the work done. They're very supportive of this. And, just a little bit slower response time, basically, because um, typically the way I work with my clients anyway, the supervisors, is any same day issue that's urgent needs to be handled by the supervisor. So if their groomer calls out sick, even on a normal day, that's up to them to relay to their clients. But they may say, hey, our scheduler, Jess, is going to follow up with you. So that was just more like, hey, just a reminder, this is your role, because I am around a bit. Now, I want to talk about the factor of my partner being present, right? Because I mentioned this in our last episode, but I asked him, hey, what was your perception of us traveling together while I was working? Because this was the first overseas trip that we had done where I decided I was going to keep working. And he was like, well, it'd be better if you didn't work. And that's valid. That's some people's thing, but I would gladly take this lifestyle I've created. And I don't mind working because, like, while on a typical day, I may work, 2, 6, 2, 4, 6, 8 hours, whatever it be, on a day here at home. I can only really do one or two max on any given day while I'm traveling. So, my husband, he was super helpful because the way I scheduled doing my work was typically at the beginning of my day or the end of the day. And he would be taking that time to basically kind of bring me food, which was great. I actually really enjoy working in the morning, even though the time didn't quite line up with my supervisors. Working at night was actually more aligned with the schedule of my time zone scheduling, but I enjoyed working the mornings because I would be like, all right, babe, I'm going to be working on my computer for a little bit. He's like, I got you. He brings me coffee, and I'm working out of our hotel or our Airbnb. By the way, for setting the scenery, he'd bring me food. He'd have his own time to decompress. And same for the evening, it would be his time to kind of like plug in headphones, play video games, read a book, and because when you're traveling with a partner, I don't know how many of you experience that, like you're together all the time. It could be a lot. So this was actually really mutually beneficial for us to be working together, but also having that time that was ours. Um, and let me think. The only time I really kind of got thrown in my experience in Greece, particularly, was there was like a mini, you know, issue that popped up with a client. And while again, client communication was not on the immediate urgency matter that I would typically like be able to catch or see or assist in some kind of way. This was happening hours later. I see all this blow up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I was there to help because it was really one of those situations where I could have helped my supervisor mitigate an issue. So that to me felt like a little bit of a loss that was unavoidable and due to travel time. But otherwise, I certainly gave myself plenty of vacation days where I literally was just like off, off, and that's okay. And I never had any issues with Wi-Fi personally. Wherever I was staying had certainly good enough Wi-Fi capability. And I had my little pocket Wi-Fi with me. So if I was out on the go or I wanted to like pop up somewhere, I could do that. But I mean, I just, if you look at my socials, you'll occasionally see me throw up my Greece vacationing pictures where I'm literally sitting poolside, sipping wine and working on my laptop, which, to some people is just like, really? That's how you choose to vacation? Well, yeah, I mean, it was wonderful. So, yeah, without going down an aside, I did break my foot while I was in Greece. So the latter half of my time, I was definitely could not move around very well. So that gave me a lot of extra time that I didn't necessarily plan for to be working. So yeah, but not bad when you're in Mykonos. I mean, whatever.
Places to break your foot, right? I mean, if you're gonna break your
I
foot,
know.
break it in paradise, right?
Yeah, in a universal healthcare system too. So um, yeah, very interesting. I recommend travel insurance all the same. Good backup.
Always. I mean, although I will say that as a quick aside,
Hmm.
depending upon where you are, even if you don't have travel insurance, and you should have it anyway. Um, a lot of countries, it's healthcare is incredibly cheap, and
Hmm.
sometimes that's their healthcare system, and sometimes it's just the cost of living.
Hmm.
I had to get something done when I was in Japan on my foot, and it cost me $150, and with insurance in the US, it would have been about $1,000. So, and I got a
Yeah.
same day appointment. So,
Mm.
you know, you know, and
Yeah.
different countries, different things, and
Yeah.
um, very different. So, but I'm glad that you were good there, and it sounds like you had your routine down, and
Mhm.
you know, nothing's perfect. I think the truth is, even if you were at home and maybe something came up, you might have had other plans too with your partner or with your family or friends or, just living life that maybe you weren't, it gave you an opportunity to not have to be available either way with your supervisor.
Mhm.
So,
Yes, absolutely. It just was one of those, it was the first time where I was like, oh my God, this is so out of my control. And I just had to examine that, you know what I mean? That was probably the only time where I kind of felt bad, but it all worked itself out, you know?
yeah. So tell me, what was one of your favorite things that you did in Greece? Like, what would you tell other people that are, whether you guys are VAs or whether you are grooming business owners, supervisors, what would you suggest they consider doing in Greece, or maybe something that you didn't expect to enjoy as much as you did in Greece?
Mm. I, I I love traveling and everything included with it, the ups and downs. I would say, anybody traveling to Greece should do a tour with a local.
Mhm.
The economy there is a lot based around tourism. So support local. I hired a tour guide to bring us to the Temple of Apollo. Apollo?
Amazing. Is it
And
Apollo or which
it's
one? Yeah.
yeah, I think it was the Temple of Apollo. Now,
It's
see
okay.
my nope.
No
I'm starting
pressure.
to, my brain is starting to tangent. Nope, we're not going there. Anyway, it was amazing, and we are still Facebook friends. He taught me the importance about Greek culture that I could bring back to my home. He's like, you Americans are all drinking your coffee too fast. Spend 3 hours drinking coffee. Spend the afternoon hiking with a friend. Like that's what life's about, and I would say that's kind of philosophy in life that you can only really learn outside of your normal bubble and your own culture and country to be able to experience what other people do in a less curated way um, than doing like an activity that is very touristy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Do a walking tour, support the local economy, try some restaurants that are a little bit off the cuff. And, like you'll take something back from that that can really help support your business and your life, your flexibility. I know I certainly did with meeting him. His name was Fotis. Shout out
Oh,
Fotis. He was great.
I love that. What was so walking tours, definitely checking
Mhm.
out the temples. I mean, there's so much amazing history there. Is there any other activity or food that you're like, oh, you should definitely try or do? I know you
Mhm.
broke your foot, so maybe that cut some of that down. But if people were thinking about going to Greece, like
Mhm.
what would you
Mhm.
tell them either in Mykonos or in Athens, like that you would be
Mhm.
like, oh, like this is totally worth doing. Obviously, a walking tour and
Mhm.
definitely exploring that. And I know it's kind of unfair because your husband is Greek, so maybe you take for granted that you have access to all this amazing
Mhm.
Greek food and things like that.
Yeah. And we stayed with relatives at some parts of it, and it was just amazing. I want to give a generic answer. My husband and I choose to travel a little bit differently, but I would say some good advice is to go to the islands.
Mhm.
Um, consider Santorini, Mykonos, Crete, Rhodes, any of those places. Go to the smaller ones. The islands have so much beauty and and fun vibes. Now, everyone, when I was like, "Oh, we're going to Mykonos," they would say, "Oh, it's so expensive there," and they're not wrong. Like
Yeah.
the pinnacle point of our trip and how we choose to travel is we stayed at um, a resort that was 100% plant-based, vegan. So there's this ethical overtone. And there's not a lot of these places in the world. So like to be able to wake up at a hotel that's beautiful and it's in line with your values and serves you only food you could eat. I mean, I've never been able to go to a
Yeah.
vegan buffet in my life. I mean, that to me was amazing. So what is your dial of like joy of money like you want to spend your money on? And whenever I travel and I give this recommendation, just throw it into that. So if it's a hotel for you, if it's a particular destination, if it's time, spend it. But I would say for Greece specifically, go to the islands. Even if it seems like a lot, it would be worth it. It's just, oh, Another thing I see, these are things I like to do, and this translates to any place I like to go. My husband and I always hire a local photographer to take photos of us in a certain area. So we have end up printing a photo from the trip that goes on our travel wall, and
Oh,
it's kind of like its own mini walking tour and something to support the local economy and is a memory that is just beautiful. So we did our photo shoot in Mykonos, and it did not disappoint. I mean, the white buildings, the you're thinking Santorini when you see the blue tops of the churches and stuff, but Mykonos is gorgeous as well. Yeah.
I love all of that. And, I hope that inspires some of you guys that, to consider going to Greece. I think Greece is definitely one of my favorite places, and I've been to a lot
Mhm.
of places. Um, there is a lot of concern for the locals. The locals are really struggling there, like in a lot of
Mhm.
places in the world, unfortunately. Um, so for me, when I went, I've been twice. I've been on a cruise ship, and I stayed with a friend of mine, and she lives in Athens, and she is Greek, and she grew up in Greece, and her ancestors are Greek, and it was very different. And we had a very fun conversation about people saying they're Greek, and she'd be like, "Well, do they speak Greek? And when did they leave Greece? And where, and she was just very like, Greek Americans are very confusing. It was such a
Yes,
cute
yes.
conversation. Um, but it was so interesting, and again, as an American, even if my ancestors have been in the US since the 1600s. Like we've been here for the most part since the country before it even became a country. But this idea of people being in the same spot for thousands and thousands of years was so fascinating.
Mhm.
So that aside, when I was there, I was very blessed because she works from home. She has her own online business, so she had an office that she could lend me, which was, I'm like, I will sleep on a couch if I have a desk. No, just kidding. Um, and it was nice. But like you said, they have a very different lifestyle there. So my daily routine was very different when I was spending time in Greece because I wanted to experience that kind of Greek life, and it is a significantly slower life. Um,
Mhm.
it's not for me, but I really enjoyed it. And every morning we would get up and we would go to a local market to get fresh food, which was so different. Normally I'm used to going grocery shopping. I still at home go grocery shopping 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes four, but getting up and my first thing was we had really nothing to eat. So we had to go and get something to eat and make a plan for the day. And we were making fresh food every
Mhm.
single day. The chicken or the meat that we would get would be killed within the last 24, 48 hours by the person we were buying it from a local market. And it was never frozen. We would get it refrigerated and we would put in there, like we would eat it that day. It was such a totally different experience. And it was very much a lifestyle of living day to day and really enjoying being a human and really focusing on being human. And a lot of the conveniences that as an American we enjoy were really not as available to us. We did have a washer, but we didn't have a dryer. So,
Mhm.
if I had clothes and it got dirty, then I had to wash it and then I had to wait till the end of the day, or sometimes 2 days, depending upon the humidity, for it to be done. And
Mhm.
the lifestyle was so much slower.
Mhm.
And I think that was really beautiful to see. And I mean, Greece is gorgeous. The history is amazing. I was really lazy, so I bought a 2-day hop on, hop off bus because I wanted to. At the time, it was extraordinarily hot, and I like hot, but it was
Mhm.
very, very hot. So I would use the hop on, hop off buses basically as a little mini taxi to get to and from all of the
Mhm.
different temples.
Mhm.
And I also really enjoy doing hop on, hop off buses just to kind of orient myself where I am in the
Sort
city.
of. Mhm.
It really helps me. But I was lucky where she lived in Athens. She lived fairly close to a train station. It was about a little less than a mile walk from her home to a train station. So I could just
Mhm.
walk, take the train. The train there was super duper easy,
Mhm.
very cheap, very
Mhm.
easy to use. I mean, obviously, you know,
Oh man, my train shut down though on my way to the airport, so I almost missed my flight.
well,
I was like,
let's
"Oops."
be, well, let's So I think we've talked a couple times about culture, and this is something very important.
Yeah.
Greek culture is never in a hurry.
No,
So
they're not.
be
No, they're not.
very, 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 very early to things because if things break, it's not really something they're worried about. It's not,
Mhm.
um, you know. And I laugh because when I was on the Greek cruise, ironically, we had a lot of Germans, and a lot of the Germans did not get along with that
Mhm.
culture. And they were having like basically panic attacks with how, like, we'd have a Greek excursion when I was in Santorini, and they were late. They were late the tour guide was late to show up for the excursion. And I think the Germans were just like completely losing their minds. And I get it. It's just it's very cultural. And you're just sitting there as an American,
Yeah.
like, things happen. And they're like,
Yeah.
no, you need to be early. And it's
That Greek time translates to Greek Americans as well.
yes.
100%. You know what, my big fat Greek wedding is totally my in-laws. You know,
Oh,
like it is not far off. It's so funny, so good.
love that.
Dude, River, we're forgetting the most crucial aspect of Greece that is relatable. That's the cats. The cats.
I know. If you're a cat person,
Yeah.
and I will say, obviously, really quickly, make sure that you can't listen. The level of vaccination and things like that is not as common there as it is in the US. So be careful. But I'm going to pet all of them anyway. I'm gonna risk it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
I
Yeah. There's cats everywhere, you guys,
everywhere.
everywhere. And as a culture, they decided to take care of them pretty
Yes.
well. I saw food everywhere. I saw people hike, we hiked Mount Leviticus in
Mm.
Athens, and it's a lot of sun. It's pretty steep, and all along the way, people
Mhm.
they've hiked their bags of food up to the top. And yeah, I just they're so beautiful. They're so
They
beautiful. It made me
are.
so happy.
Oh.
Um, it made me so happy to see so many cats.
And they really are well taken care of. And I mean, it's so interesting because there are other countries I've been to that have like cat colonies
Mhm,
and they're just not treated kindly or they're in really bad
mhm.
health. And these cats really are absolutely beautiful and they're super friendly. It's so funny. You can sit at like a bus stop and you can just like pet a cat and they're like, "Hey, what's
Mhm.
up?" And you're like, "Hey, cat."
Yeah, they'll just like lounging, chilling, totally. I have a whole like photo album of cats of Greece. It brought me so much joy. So,
It's funny you mentioned that. I always try to buy something that's kind of practical they're not practical, but so I bought a deck of cards and the deck of cards is all these pictures of cats. And I guess that's a
mhm,
really common thing for people to buy is the deck of cards. And it's just so funny because I was like, oh, then I can use it. And that's the deck of cards I bring with me whenever I go on a cruise ship because I like to play cards. But it's true, they're just everywhere. And I mean, that's the thing, right? Is whenever you travel, there's so many things you can see and remember, and you can't keep track of them all. I hate to say it that way, but
mhm,
that's what photos are for. Photos are for looking through and going, "Oh my God, I forgot to do that," or "Oh my God, I forgot to tell people about that." I mean,
mhm,
Greece is amazing. That said, internet in Greece, for the most part, is absolutely fantastic compared to many, 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 many other countries.
mhm,
But if things don't work, they're not going to get fixed in a timely fashion. They're just not worried
mhm,
the same way that we're worried. Um, they're just not, and that's okay. Um, transit works amazing until it doesn't,
mhm,
and you should always have a backup plan.
mhm,
Um, it is not uncommon. I mean, Spain's kind of the same way too, unfortunately. Rome, it's not all of Italy, but specifically Rome is very common
mhm,
for things like that to be the same way. But yeah, Greece is a much slower culture. Everything kind of goes on its own pace. You have to be prepared for
mhm.
that. Like food is at its own pace. Sometimes you order things and you're kind of gonna get what they're gonna give you sometimes. Like even if you order something and they're gonna be like, no, 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 try this, try this, try this. And as somebody with food allergies, it makes me nervous. So I was really lucky to be with somebody who speaks Greek and explained that. Because there's a lot of
Yeah.
desserts and food in Greek that can have nuts in them. So,
Mhm.
but
You know
she,
what's a, oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I, I upon a recommendation from our relatives in Athens, were like, "Oh, there's a massive concert going on in Athens tonight. You should go." And so we snagged like these tickets for like $5 each, and they were like fantastic seats. But it was in the old Olympic
Oh,
arena,
yeah.
and it was all these famous Greek singers singing songs of this one famous guy
Hmm.
who they were honoring. But like the entire time, absolutely no English, of course. And there was so much Greek pride there. And it was just like in itself this whole beautiful like reverence towards Greek culture, Greeks loving and proud of their
Yes.
heritage and family and collectively together and in Greek time, all these things. It's just I encourage everyone to just really try and do random stuff like that. Even if you have no idea what's going on, you just really kind of feed on the energy and a sense of I mean, there was probably 8,000 people in there. I was like, okay, we're here.
And I will say too, like Greece compared to other countries in the area, Greece is very safe compared to a lot of the other countries. There's less stabbings, there's less pickpocketing. I mean, pickpocketing in Europe is a really big problem.
Mhm,
But in Greece, it's a little less so.
mhm,
Greek men are, very respectful. It's not a big drinking culture. Generally, if you see
mhm.
people in Greece getting shit-faced, it's generally, unfortunately, UK or Australian tourists. Nothing
Yeah.
against those countries. It's just
People
more of a
visiting
drinking culture.
Mykonos for the party because they're known for their
Yeah.
nightlife, and they'll
Right.
stay up
Right.
all night party, and their time of day. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But
different, but yeah, I would agree. Safe,
yeah.
easy to navigate. I would say it's kind of hard to get there. I know coming from the West Coast, there's no direct flights
Hmm.
straight to Greece, so I flew into France
Yeah.
and then stayed there a few days, then hopped over. I guess cruises are fairly easy to hop
Um,
around in Greece. Yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot of Greek cruises.
Hmm.
I have mixed feelings about them. They're generally very expensive because Greece has been charging more money,
Hmm.
which they should because, you know, there's a lot of money that goes into the ports and everything. I do think it's one of the most, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but ethical ways of going island hopping in Greece because for better or for worse, when you're coming in on a cruise ship, you're not taking housing away from locals. And I think that's unfortunately one of the worst things that happens when we do travel to
Hmm.
these countries. Um, for better or for worse, a lot of places, the average Greek salary is only $600 or $800 a month US.
Hmm.
And so when we come in and we see an Airbnb and we're paying, let's say, $500 to $1,000 for the week, we're
Hmm.
now making that place inhabitable for a local because why would they ever give it to a local who can only pay, potentially $300 a month, you know?
Hmm.
And that's very unfortunate. And again, obviously in more expensive areas like Athens, people are making more. But Greek is unfortunately a very poor country. It's a very corrupt country. There's not a ton of opportunities for the local people. And because
Hmm.
it's not a culture of boss babes, right? It's not like America is such a working culture. I mean, and worse yet, Japan is even more of a working culture.
Hmm.
It's just a different lifestyle. So if you're going to come in, things like cruises, you're not going to get a Greek experience on a cruise ship. You're going to get like a spoonful of grease, but at least then you can decide if this is a place that your work is worth investing into. And
Hmm.
I know like hotels aren't always the best, but unless if you can ethically go and get an Airbnb or stay with a local who's actually going to earn money. If you can, I think the best way to do that is do an Airbnb where the person who lives there and is Greek is renting out an extra bedroom. Um,
Hmm.
and a lot of people will take you under their wings and they're going to show you around. I mean, it's a very
Hmm.
wonderful culture that is. is they want to bring you in and show you their country. They're
Yeah,
very proud of their country. So,
absolutely. I think that's kind of the nailed down points. Meet somebody and
yes.
let
We
them
need,
take you in. Let them take you in.
I think that's it. Like in a perfect world, we could get, I would love at some point to get like a groomer VA like exchange program where we just
Hmm.
like find a network of people that can like, you can stay with them. And in fact, that's what happened with my friend. She's not a virtual assistant, but she has her own online business. And we became
Hmm.
very good friends online. And I stayed with her. And then she actually recently stayed with me here. In Newport, and she got to have time. And we laughed. We said, I'm going to go to Greece next year for a month, and she'll have to come here for a month because I think that's the best way because she got a totally different experience with a
Hmm.
local versus if she had come and stayed here. So,
Hmm. Hey, when you travel, do you ever look for grooming salons in the area?
so I do, but generally speaking, what happens is, when at one point, what I used to do is let people know where I was going and have people reach out to me and spend time. But I think a lot of time what ends up happening, and I love you all, and I wish I could, is that now my trips, instead of it being about seeing local cultures and spending time, it ends up being you telling me what you need support in, and then eventually I just end up giving you lots of business advice, which I love doing, but that's what I do for a living. And when I'm
Hmm.
traveling, I want to spend time in the place I'm spending time in. So
Hmm.
that said, when I was in Athens, I did peek my head into a local grooming salon, and it
Hmm.
was so different. Like the setup
Hmm.
was nothing like in the US. And I wish I
Hmm.
had taken pictures, but I felt like it was kind of invasive.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I didn't get to see any in Greece, unfortunately. Uh,
um,
but I
I,
do try and peek where I can.
in Japan, that one was
Oh,
really super interesting, futuristic, and the hand scissoring is
yeah. One of my
so impressive.
supervisors, groomers, just spent the last 3 weeks in Japan, and I follow them on Instagram, and it was so cool. She had attended a trade show in Japan and really
Amazing.
and got to like was posting pictures of like just outside of the trade show, even like dog accessories you can get from a vending machine and like the
Yes.
groomer scissor where like I'm just like, oh girl. But when I was in London, the UK, um, I saw a grooming shop that was half bar. I don't know how that works with all the hair and stuff, but literally the front was a bar and it was integrated within the salon.
Listen,
It was a
I
pub.
I
Pub,
love
pub, pub,
that.
yeah.
I feel like, and again, like there's nothing wrong. It's so interesting. Like
Hmm.
I feel like again, like British culture is just like such a pub culture, and it's so fascinating to me. I love it. I love like
Yeah, I love a
it
pub. Mm.
it was so weird when my son and I went to a pub together, and I'm like, I don't like it just felt weird to bring an underage kid to a bar. But again,
Yeah.
it's just a different culture, and it's
It's
not
not a bar, it's a pub, girl.
exactly. I know, but he was
That's
sitting
different.
at the bar with me,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
was like, I am
Yeah.
not ready for this. You're too young. Like I am
Yeah.
not old enough to have this experience, but and I love that when the more you guys travel, the more you're going to see these different
Hmm.
experiences. And, you're going to have instances where you're going to see cultures you like and cultures you don't love, and it's okay.
Hmm.
It's not about
Yeah.
judging them on their culture. It's about accepting that certain values or certain ways of life are just not aligned with you, and that's perfectly okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And I've got my eyes set in the long term on, scoping a place that really speaks to my soul and really and possibly moving there for a time. So my husband and I are looking at early retirement, and I would like to just keep working until as long as I can, really, out of just for the love of what I do.
Yeah.
So Greece is on the table for me. I mean, already dying to go back. I was supposed to get married there. That's a whole tangent, but yeah. I
Yeah.
love Greece. Love Greece. Everyone should go. And
Every
if you want to work there, you can totally do that.
I think working in Greece is probably one of the easiest places
Hmm.
if you, I think, and we can even make a whole podcast on like the easiest places to work as a virtual assistant remotely.
Hmm.
But I think Greece is good internet, great food, good people, very safe compared to a lot of other places.
Hmm.
especially in Europe right now. I think that, it's somewhere that, and especially if you want to practice a slower lifestyle, I think it's a
Hmm.
great opportunity
Hmm.
to try that out. I think
Yeah,
the only negative thing I would tell you is if you are going to go, just make sure you're doing it ethically and you're not taking over a space that a local, and I know that's hard and it's not necessarily our responsibility, it's their
hmm,
country's responsibility, but do your best, the best that you can do. So,
totally. That's all we can do.
absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. I know we kind of went off on a rabbit hole, but that's kind of like what these travelings are going to do. So, we both went
Hmm.
to Greece, we both had different experiences. I will say if you're going to travel on a cruise ship in Greece, you're not going to get the full Greek experience. Um, but the internet, even there, when we were in port, the internet was pretty fantastic, all things considered.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
you know, pretty easy breezy. So, Jess, is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap this up?
Mm, I don't think so. No.
Awesome, guys. So, this was all about traveling and working virtually in Greece and our thoughts on traveling to Greece in general and why you should travel to Greece at some point in the near
Mhm.
future. So, this
Oh,
was,
I just remembered.
oh, tell me.
Don't don't rent a motorbike if you don't feel skilled in doing that. That's how I broke my foot. That was my husband's fault. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay though.
Did you fall off of it or what did you do?
No, like we were going up a little hill to see a lighthouse. It was gorgeous, but like it was a van coming down, a van parked, so he kind of got a little too close to the park van and my foot clipped the side of it. So, because as a passenger on a motorbike, your
Yeah.
feet are kind of splayed out a little bit. So, yeah, yeah, it really hurt, guys. But yeah, like a lot of motorbike accidents when I was waiting to be seen at the medical place. Um, a lot of people had broken bones from that. Yeah.
I will say that as somebody who has scooters at home, has a motorcycle, and does a lot of motorcycle stuff in other countries, it is not the time to learn
Hmm.
how to be a passenger or
Hmm.
be on a motorcycle in a foreign country. Um,
Yeah. It
and
seems idyllic, but it's my husband has a motorcycle license, but it was just one of those like freak out scenarios, and they do not have the power to go up a hill and maneuver easy on narrow roads that are cobblestone. Yeah, it is just a bad combo.
I in Asian countries I use so they have basically their Uber is called Grab and they have Grab bikes. I would do a Grab bike when I'm in Bali or in Vietnam or anything like that. That said, that is a local who is used to the streets, is used to the chaos. Um, it's it's funny because like in Bermuda, and there's a lot of cruises from Boston to Bermuda. And every single cruise, somebody gets injured on a
Hmm.
scooter in Bermuda.
Hmm.
Like they literally put it in their pamphlet, like, please do not rent scooters. And it's because there's a lot of, again, even if you know how to drive,
Hmm.
this is not these culturally, the way they drive in Greece is bananas. Like it is,
Yeah, it is true. Yep.
even if I'm with a local, like I said, my friend was a local, would either walk or drive.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't handle this. Like, and she would just be driving and swearing and cursing people in Greek. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
no.
gonna die. I'm gonna
That's a
die.
whole nother. That's so true. Even my tour guide, Fotis, love him. I was like, dude, keep your eyes on the road. Oh my God, like, what are we doing? They've outlawed drinking coffee while driving while I was there. There's a law that passed while I was there, and they were outraged. Like, we're not going to do that. We're going to drink our cafe anytime we like. We don't care. I'm like,
It,
okay, okay.
we do, and let's be clear, it's the same thing in Morocco.
Yep,
In some
yep.
places in Spain, it's similar. I think the safest I ever feel driving is in Japan, and I think it's because of how hard it is to get a license in Japan. But there's there's a lot of countries, man, that you're just better, just walk and
Yeah,
take public transport. Um,
yeah,
and again, you have to trust how you feel driving. I would rather drive in Boston any day over Greece. I would personally not.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think we'll do that again. In theory, it seemed like a good idea, but
Sounds
we
sweet. It
probably,
sounds very like
yeah, like think about like in Italy too. Nope, not gonna. No, 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 no. We're not. Mm-mm.
I mean, it's one thing if, and I will say this as a quick aside, guys, if you're going to be there for 3 to 6 months and you're going to practice and really like grow that muscle, and you're going to start like driving really early in the morning and like maybe, but like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that it sounds better than it is. It's definitely a recipe for disaster. And
Mhm.
you guys are gonna do what you can do as long as you have travel insurance.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think you got it off easy. I know a couple of people, like really quick story when I don't remember if it was in Bali or if it was I had one of the solos I met. I know they left the ship in Bali, and I don't know if his friend was in Bali or if she was in another one of the ports we had been to. But she'd rented like basically a glorified scooter, like a heavy scooter, and it fell on her leg and she got trapped underneath it.
Yikes. Oy.
And obviously, if you've ever been on a scooter, most like the side is really hot.
Yeah, yeah. That's why people wear gear.
Right. And of course, she was wearing flip-flops and shorts and her bathing
Mm,
suit top. Um,
no.
so he left Bali and he went to fly and take care of her because not only did she really hurt her leg, she broke her leg in 2 places.
Mhm.
She had really nasty burns, and she was in a foreign country where she didn't speak the language.
Yeah.
And she couldn't fly until certain things were stable. So basically, she got stuck
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
I think she had to stay 2 or 3 weeks. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I hate to say it this
Yeah.
way, but especially in a lot of those kind of countries, it's not that expensive to get in a car. Like Grabs are very cheap, taxis are very
Hmm.
cheap. Like
Hmm.
spend the $10, don't worry about it. Um,
Hmm.
it sounds great until you're the statistic. So
Yeah.
knock on wood, knock on wood. Yay, on that happy
Yeah.
note. So
Yes.
why so this so thank you guys so much for being here. This is of course the Step Away from the Table Beyond the Table podcast. And we talked about traveling and working virtually in Greece, as well as why you should not rent motorcycles in foreign countries. Thank you guys
Yes.
for following us on this super fun tangent. I am Riverly of the Savvy Groomer and Step Away from the Table. This is Jess, the System Queen from Groomer Services. And, if they wanted to find out more about you or maybe follow you along, I'm sure they'd love to connect with you and just
Mhm.
learn more about you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I mean, follow my travel adventures when I do them. You'll find my socials and website all follow my brand at Groomer Support Services. So look me up and you can book a discovery call with me on my website anytime.
Absolutely. And this is a judge-free zone. So do not message her and tell her how she should or should not have, you know. And that's part of the adventures, right, guys?
Yeah. We'll drop the link in the notes with my picture and my crutches in paradise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
It was not a bad life. Not a bad
I
life.
feel like poolside in Greece with a broken foot, there's worse places to be, but yeah,
Mhm.
I not ideal. All right, guys. Well,
Mhm.
thank you guys so much as always for being here. We really appreciate you. Thank you for being here while we have a good time. So,
Yeah, totally.
as always, guys, happy grooming.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining me on Step Away from the Table, Beyond the Table. If today's episode sparked something in you, don't forget to follow, share, or leave a review. It helps more groomers like you find their next step. You don't have to do this alone, but you get to do it your way. Until next time, take a deep breath and keep moving forward.